Pope Francis has said reliable data showed about 2% of Catholic clergy are pedophiles. The Italian newspaper La Repubblica reports the Pope said priests, bishops, and cardinals were among that 2%, which represents some 8,000 individuals. During the interview with the paper's owner, the pontiff likened the abuse of children to a leprosy infecting the church, a state of affairs he found intolerable and promised would be confronted with the severity it demands. The Vatican, while commending the paper for capturing the sense and spirit of the conversation, added Pope Francis was not quoted exactly.
A former Catholic archbishop has been arrested inside the Vatican as part of a paedophile investigation. The Vatican said Yusuf Visalovsky is accused of paying for sex with children while serving the church as papal ambassador in the Dominican Republic. According to a Vatican spokesman, Pope Francis, who has zero tolerance against clerics who sexually abuse children, personally ordered the arrest. The Polish national is currently under house arrest inside the Holy See. He was defrocked by a Vatican tribunal earlier this year following allegations that he sexually abused young boys. He is awaiting trial on criminal charges.
Scandal rocks the Vatican for the second time this week. On Thursday, officials confirmed Pope Francis had sacked Bishop Livieres, head of the Paraguayan Diocese of Ciudad del Este. Livieres is suspected of protecting a priest believed to have sexually abused young people. The dismissal follows the arrest 2 days earlier of a former archbishop accused of paying for sex with children during his time as papal ambassador in the Dominican Republic. Pope Francis has vowed to take a zero-tolerance policy on clerics who abuse minors. The pontiff approved ex-archbishop Josef Veselovsky's arrest and earlier this year compared child abuse to a satanic mass. Veselovsky has appealed against the accusation, while Livieres has defended both himself and the priest he's suspected of protecting. Vatican sources say the Paraguayan's dismissal was the result of an investigation into the notoriously divisive bishop, the diocese and its seminaries.
Some 3,000 pedophiles have transpired in the French Catholic Church over the past 70 years. This is according to the head of an independent commission investigating the sex abuse scandal inside the Roman Catholic. Ruth Bahe details why live. Ruth?
Good evening, Elsie. The investigating body is due to publish its findings on Tuesday, ending the 2.5 years of work and probing allegations of sexual abuse inside the Roman Catholic Church. French Commission head Jean-Marc Zouvi said in an interview that this has been going on since the 1950s. A spokesperson representing the French Catholic Bishops' Conference declined to comment on Zouvi's remarks, while the Vatican said it would wait for the full report to be published before deciding on whether to comment on the issue. The French Catholic Church posted a prayer on its Twitter account on behalf of the victims. They also offered to hold a prayer on the day of the publication report. In June, Pope Francis said the Catholic Church sex scandal was a worldwide catastrophe. Back in 2019, he issued a landmark decree making bishops directly accountable for sexual abuse or for covering it up. He also insisted that bishops take action against priests who abuse minors and vulnerable adults.
David Lorenz lived a nightmare that took years to come to light. He was abused by a priest, a counselor at his Catholic high school, after a party on the last day of school. He was just 16.
I spent the night in one of the bedrooms at his house, and that morning he came in and sodomized me.
It was when he finally found the courage to tell someone that he discovered he was not alone. Others had previously accused the priest of attacks, but each time the church had covered up the crimes and moved him to a new parish and new victims.
There is no organization, no company on earth, there is no governmental organization that says, if you abuse a child, you know what, we'll keep you on and we'll keep you under employment. The only organization in the entire world is the Catholic Church that says, if you're a pedophile, you can still remain a priest. Not only that, most of the time we'll hide you. I hope you're not in some celery.
David and his wife Judy still count themselves among the Catholic faithful.
The woman behind the counter.
For them, Pope Benedict XVI's apology to those who, like David, were abused is important, but the Church is still failing to do enough.
So yes, I'm angry with them. and they don't listen. We've had meetings. They tell us one thing, they do another thing, and it's very discouraging.
In their garden, David's refuge with his statue of St. Francis of Assisi. Now he keeps his faith in his own way and has little hope the Vatican, new pope or not, will root out the problem of sex abuse by priests.
To help other victims. I think the church is beyond the ability to repair. But other victims are not beyond the ability to repair.
And that is his hope, that he can reach out and help other victims of abuse within the church who are still too afraid to speak out.
Now, a Catholic bishop who was forced by the Vatican to leave Belgium after admitting sexually abusing his 5-year-old nephew has sparked outrage by going on live television and saying it was nothing serious, just a game. He also admitted abusing another young nephew. The former Bishop of Bruges, Roger van Geloe, says he is not a paedophile. He can't be prosecuted under Belgian law because the abuse took place 25 years ago. But Belgian ministers have urged the Vatican to punish him. Here's Jane Deeth.
This is Bishop van Geloe before he was forced to admit he abused his nephew in the 70s and 80s. The Catholic Church in Belgium finally kicked him out this week. But the Vatican gave the 74-year-old safe passage to a French monastery, where he's supposed to be having spiritual and psychological treatment. Instead, he's been on Belgian television talking about abusing his nephew and trying to play it down.
It didn't go very far. You could call it a bit like a relationship. For my part, I have the strong impression that my nephew didn't object. It started as a sort of game, I would say. And to be honest, it never went further than that. I never used physical violence.
Roger van Geloe reveals he abused a second nephew, but denies he's a paedophile. When he resigned as a bishop, a church-backed inquiry was contacted by 500 victims of abuse by Belgian priests. They finally felt they'd be heard. The Belgian government says Van Geloe's TV appearance is an insult to all of them.
I think it's terrible what's been said. It crossed the line of what's acceptable. This can't go on.
One has to ask, how can someone who's done this kind of thing, who doesn't show any remorse, stay where he is? Enjoying his pension, drinking a nice glass of wine.
The Catholic Church in Belgium says it's astonished at Roger van Geloe's comments. He's still a priest. The Vatican says the power to defrock him lies with the Pope, who's still deciding what to do about him.
Catholic bishops across the U.S. begin a week-long meeting today to discuss looming questions about the clergy sex abuse crisis. They're meeting at a seminary north of Chicago at the request of the Pope, who is sending his personal preacher to the retreat.
CBS News has also learned of several cases in which nuns have faced accusations of sexual misconduct. Nikki Batiste reports.
This is Sister Shaw.
Yes, this is Sister Eileen Shaw.
This is the nun Trish Cahill says she confided in when she was 15 years old.
I would have done anything for her. I would have died for her.
At a convent in New Jersey, she says she told Eileen Shaw things she'd never revealed to anyone about her now deceased uncle, a priest, whom she claims sexually abused her starting at age 5.
She gave me everything that was lacking that I didn't even know I was lacking. I was so broken. She filled in all those pieces.
She now describes that process as grooming, saying Shaw plied her with drugs and alcohol while teaching her how to have sex with a woman.
I'm with my friends during the day, and I'm with this pedophile nun on the evenings and on the weekends and in the summer.
Pedophile nun is a phrase I think most of our viewers will have never heard.
Really? Wow. That's really a shame because there's a lot of them out there. It's the secret not yet told.
Mary Dispenza is trying to change that.
The demands of chastity and celibacy are unrealistic demands for many of us.
Dispenza, a former nun from another congregation, remembers what happened when a superior summoned her to her room.
I knelt down right next to her, And she kissed me all over softly my face. And I want to say, oh, but it wasn't bad. But it was, and I've carried it with me till today.
Through her work with SNAP, the survivors network of those abused by priests, she says she would occasionally hear about abuse or cover-ups by nuns. But since the publication of a grand jury report identified hundreds of pedophile priests in Pennsylvania, at least 18 people have contacted her to share stories of abuse by religious sisters.
We've heard so much about alleged child sex abuse by priests. Why haven't we heard about nuns?
A lot has to do with the culture of nuns, they are very, very private by nature.
Trish Cahill reported her abuse to the Sisters of Charity of St. Elizabeth in 1994. The congregation paid her a $70,000 out-of-court settlement.
They had canon lawyers on retainer just for people like me. Shut her up, pacify her, tell her you love her and you'll pray for her, and send her on her way.
In a statement, the congregation tells CBS News the case was investigated immediately when it was reported in 1994, and a settlement was reached that was mutually agreed on by all parties. We believe that the Sisters of Charity acted in a responsible manner.
Hi, is this Eileen?
We reached out to Sister Eileen Shaw, who Cahill says she continued to see for years as an adult.
You don't wish to discuss this at all? She just hung up.
The Sisters of Charity removed her from her role as a grade school principal, but report she remains a nun. They're providing her with food and housing while restricting her from outside ministry.
I think it's really sad.
In the meantime, Cahill says the settlement she signed wasn't enough to help her deal with a lifetime of trauma.
What is your hope?
That this is the beginning of many, many times more that I get to speak, and I get to educate, and I get to possibly prevent this from happening to anyone ever again.